Shalom guys, welcome back to another episode here at Just Shavu Ministries with Casa de Sayajara. Thank you for being there. Like I would say, if you like the content that we have on our channel, like and subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, just put it in the comment section down below. So, we're going to continue with our weekly Torah portions, biblical portions, and readings. This week's Torah portion continues with, obviously, the book of Leviticus, Vaikra. Torah portion Emor and say, and this is one of the portions that continues to talk about the holiness of the priest, the expectations that are set for them, and for them as individuals and in their service, and the qualifications that God, Yod He Vav He, in this case, requires for them to be apt to serve, and not only that, but also how they are responsible of maintaining the offerings and being apt to accept the offerings from the people, right? And so we also talk about in this portion in Leviticus 23 of the appointed times, right? The days that Adonai, Yod He Vav He, expects us, commands us, the moedim, right? That he calls us to congregate, to be one people, one nation, in worship, in obedience, in holiness to him, right? That we proclaim that he is our king. These are the topics that are addressed in this portion, but today we're going to do something a little different, and is based on a little bit of what I've been doing lately with the portions, a little unorthodox, but bear with me. Let's get started, right? So, like I said, this week's Torah portion is Emor, and you see this portion beginning in Leviticus chapter 21 verse 1 to Leviticus chapter 24 verse 23. The Haftarah portion of the prophets is Ezekiel chapter 44 verses 15 to 31. And the New Testament portion of Brit Chadashah is Luke 14 verses 12 to 24. Parashat Emor opens with the commandment to Moses. It says, Emor el hakohenim b'nei Aaron. Says, say to the priests, the sons of Aaron, right? The list of certain commandments regarding service in the Mishkan, the tabernacle, including restrictions about touching corpse, prohibition regarding the customs of the pagan nations around them, and rules concerning the marriage of a Kohen, the priest. The function of these commandments is twofold, right? To promote holiness and to keep from profaning the name of Adonai, right? So we're going to read it straight from the Bible, from Logos. But before we get started, let's do a Torah blessing. Baruch Adonai Hamorah, Baruch Adonai Hamorah L'olam Ba'eh, Baruch Atah Adonai Melech HaOlam, Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim, Benatan Lanu Et Torato, Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah. Bless Adonai who is blessed, blessed Adonai who is blessed now and forever. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who has chosen us from among the peoples and given us the Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai, giver of the Torah. Amen. So it says, Then the Lord said to Moses, Speak to the priests, sons of Aaron, and say to them, No one shall defile himself for a dead person among his people, except for his relatives who are nearest to him, his mother, and his father, and his son, and his daughter, and his brother. Also his virgin sister who is near to him, because she has had no husband. For her he may defile himself. He shall not defile himself as a relative by marriage among his people, and so profane himself. They shall not make any baldness in their heads, nor shave off their edges of their beards, nor make any cuts in their flesh. They shall be holy to their God, and not profane the name of their God. For they present offerings by fire to the Lord, the food of their God. So they shall be holy. Okay? Now, it's very interesting because the emphasis made here in the service of the priests, and obviously the opening exposition is their corpse contamination. And remember, a lot of these things are based on how it was dealt culturally, and the importance of life and death, in a literal sense, in a ritualistic sense, right? And so death cannot be in the tabernacle and in the camp. Hence, there's a level of purity that is called to be upon the people, and a level higher of purity and holiness that is called upon the priest, who is ministering on behalf of the people and on behalf of God, right? Because as each commandment here will say, for I, the Lord, who sanctifies you, am holy, right? So there's a big emphasis on the priest and how they serve in purity and in holiness, in obedience to what they're commanded, dictates who they serve, right? The acts of service that they're manifesting are not because of their self-righteousness and self-establishment as deities themselves, right? They are images of the deity. They are servants of the deity, okay? And so each command that is given to them in the structure of their service sanctifies them, right? So they themselves are not holy, but because they obey the deity and carry themselves in their service according to what the deity commands, because the deity is holy, they are holy and they are sanctified, okay? So at the end of the day, it's not how they do or what they do that makes them holy, but the deity itself, right? And so if you obey the deity is with you, hence the service is acceptable or apt for manifesting God's presence, because you're manifesting his image in obedience, hence he can work through you as an image of God, okay? So that's what's happening in the opening of Leviticus 21, okay? So understanding that premise, right, because we can read the following again, right? There's the defiled by the corpse contamination. There's not ripping the size of their beards, which is something associated with ancient mourning, the dead ritual acts, right? They would, rip their beards and their hairs in a sign of mourning, and so Adonai doesn't want them to be associated with those type of rituals or those type of manifestations of service, because that's not how Adonai deals with death or anything that has to do with that element of the transition from the living to the ones that are resting, okay? So the priests are the first line of defense and the first ones to demonstrate to us how we're going to deal with the life and the absence of life, okay? And what is clean and unclean to the deity, okay? So let's read a couple more so we can understand. Verse 5 says, they shall not make baldness on their heads, nor shave the edges of their beards, nor make any cuts in their flesh, right? All of this is connected to cultural idolatry worship and service. It says they shall be holy to their God and not profane the name of their God, for they present offerings, okay? It says, verse 7, they shall not take a woman who is profaned by harlotry, nor shall they take a woman divorced from her husband, for he is holy to his God. You shall consecrate him, therefore he offers the food of your God, and he shall be holy to you, for I, the Lord, who sanctifies you, I am holy, right? So this is emphasis on who they represent, what they represent, and how they should carry themselves. And everything that is depicted in this element is very important. Now, when it says the food to their God, it's interesting because the deity does not consume the food. But here he says, until in chapter 22 says, then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, tell Aaron his sons that be careful with the holy gifts, the sons of Israel, which they dedicate to me, so as to not profane my holy name. I am the Lord their God. Say to them, if any man among you or descendants throughout the generation approaches the holy gifts which the sons of Israel dedicate to the Lord, while he has uncleanness, that person shall be cut off from before me. I am the Lord their God. And it's important because the transition here is key, right? The priests are called to a standard of purity and holiness so they can serve. Why? Because when the people come and they are maintaining themselves pure and holy, and they bring the gifts to Adonai, then the priest can affect the connection. Because if they are not pure enough to be in the presence, which they are the ones that are dictated to come into the presence with the gifts, then there is a limitation that the people have. Okay? So now, the step-by-step procedure that the priests and the people have to follow requires purity and holiness. John chapter 5 is very important because like I said to you guys, what dictates if the priests are holy or what dictates that the people are holy is the deity, right? Because the one that is holy above everything is Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, God, right? So if we obey God and we honor God because he is holy, we are holy, right? Now, he is the one that sanctifies us and consecrates us. He's the one that chooses us. And what we do is not for the sake of our preservation, but for the sake of our gratitude and love to him who is holy, okay? Which is a big difference, right? Because you can obey certain commandments and structures for the sake of your own self-pleasure and self-gain, but they will not obtain you what you seek if you don't accept the deity that is giving it to you, right? Because you can accept the gifts of God and not him, right? And how do you say, how can I accept the gifts of God but not accept God? Well, if you love him, you keep his commandments, right? A lot of people want God's blessings and God's promises, but they don't want to listen to what he has to say or what he expects of us, okay? And so we tend to just make up what we want and how we want to do things. So the authority that the people of Israel have, and in this case for portion Emor, the authority that the priests have is not solely on them, right? They don't have the authority. They have the deity with the authority that has given them authority if they hold themselves pure, right? Because it says, make sure that you are holy because I, Adonai, sanctify you, make you holy, right? So obey my words. Now, let's go to John 5, right? So it says, this is Yeshua, Jesus says, after these things, there was a feast of the Jews, right? Which is something that is talked about in Leviticus 23, the feast of the Jews, and in this case is Israel. And Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now there's in Jerusalem by the sheep gate a pool, which is called in Hebrew Bethesda, having 5 porticos. In these lay a multitude of those who were sick, blind, lame, and withered, waiting for the moving of the waters. Right? And culturally, this was a way of worship to a healing God. Okay, it says, for an angel of the Lord went down a certain season into the pool and stirred up the water. Whoever went first after the stirring up of the water stepped in and was made well from whatever disease with which he was afflicted. Okay, a man there who had been ill for 38 years, when Jesus saw him laying there, he knew that he had already been there a long time in that condition. And he said to him, do you wish to get well? The sick man answered him, Sir, I have no man to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up. But while I am coming, another steps down before me. So Yeshua said to him, get up, pick up your pallet, and walk. Immediately, the man became well and picked up his pallet and began to walk. Now, it was a Shabbat on that day. So the Jews were saying to the man who was cured, "It is a Shabbat, and it is not permissible for you to carry your pallet." But he answered them, "He who made me well was the one who said to me, 'Pick up your pallet and walk.'" They asked him, "Who is the man who said to you, 'Pick up your pallet and walk'?" But the man who was healed did not know who it was, for Yeshua had slipped away while there was a crowd in the place. Afterward, Yeshua found him in the temple and said to him, "Behold, you have become well. Do not sin anymore," which is very interesting from what we've spoken about in previous portions. Is what does he mean by sin no more? What is sin, right? You have to remember what is sin. So that nothing worse happens to you. The man went away and told the Jews that it was Yeshua, Jesus, who had made him well. For this reason, the Jews were persecuting Yeshua, Jesus, because he was doing these things on the Shabbat. But he answered them, "My Father is working until now, and I myself am working." Right? So Yeshua makes a big or a bold statement in the case of what he was doing in that day, the Shabbat, the Sabbath day, which is one of the appointed times, the first and main appointed time in Leviticus 23. 6 days you will work, but on the seventh day it's the Shabbat, rest to the Lord. There was not a commandment, but there was an edict, a ruling, a legislation that healing on Shabbat was not permissible, because the process of making any medicine for treatment or healing took a lot of work. Hence, healing and the process of preparation of healing was not permissible on Shabbat, right? So if you were healing on Shabbat, it was considered a sin, because you were transgressing the edict that established that you were working. Also the carrying a certain amount of weight or carrying anything in that sense also was considered something of a sinful aspect in a legislative edict, right? Not necessarily in the commandment itself, but in what was established by the leaders. And so here Yeshua is confronting these two edicts or legislations by the leaders, the rabbis, or the teachers of the time. They are having the trouble because it's on Shabbat, and is somebody that was seeking God's healing, provision. So Yeshua is confronting them about this. So he establishes that his Father is working, hence he himself is working. And you will say, why are you bringing this up as we're talking about Torah portion Emor? Because in another portion, when Yeshua is judged for letting his disciples pluck from grain on Shabbat, and they say that, why do you let your disciples break the Shabbat? Yeshua says that the priests, by the standards of the Pharisees, desecrate the Shabbat. Why is that? Because they, like the Father, work in the temple, right? Because that's what the priests are called to do in Torah portion Emor, right? The priests don't stop working on Shabbat. The priests continue to serve on Shabbat, because on Shabbat, even though the people are not going to work, they are going to be bringing the gifts, right? And so the priests are called to be holy because Adonai is holy. And in the process of the priest being holy on Shabbat, they're called to serve so that the people can draw near the deity, and the deity doesn't stop its manifestation as the king and the provider and the healer on Shabbat, because the people are not working, right? That is the ideal time for the people to come in gratitude And if there is a need, the king will provide it. And so when Yeshua says, my Father is working till this day, so I too, I'm working. He's saying I'm in service of those that are in need, right? So he's not in a self-gaining, fulfilling work. He is serving as a servant of not only the deity, but of the people. What the priests should have been doing and are called to do, and what the Pharisees should have been teaching and doing. Okay? And so, that is what's happening. Now, Yeshua continues, says, for this reason, therefore the Jews, the leaders, were seeking all the more to kill him, kill Yeshua, because he not only was breaking the Shabbat based on their standards, not the command, but also was calling God his own Father, making himself equal with God, right? It says, therefore, Yeshua answered and was saying to them, truly, truly, I say to you, the Son cannot do nothing of himself, unless it is something he sees the Father doing. For whatever the Father does, these things the Son also does like manner. And so why is this very important? I'll explain on Torah portion Emor. Because the priests are called to be holy. Because the portion told you that in Leviticus 20:21 it says, after every command that is given to the priests, it says they shall be holy to their God and not profane the name of their God, for they present offerings by fire to the Lord, the food of their God, so they shall be holy. It says, and here it says in verse 8 of Leviticus 21, it says, you shall consecrate him, therefore he offers the food of your God. He shall be holy to you, for I, the Lord, who sanctifies you, am holy. All right, so the standard of holiness that the priest applies is because his deity is holy, and in the process of his service, Adonai is in a way stretching out his arm through the service of the priest to those that are in need. And what makes the priest holy in his service is the deity, right? If the deity is not there, if the deity does not manifest, then the priest is doing his job in vain, right? But because the priest is obeying God's words and maintaining himself pure and holy, the deity responds, okay? So Yeshua is saying the same thing. He's saying, I am not a priest, right? So obviously what Yeshua is not applying here has nothing to do with encroaching the tabernacle, right? Yeshua is saying we're called to be a light to the nations. Israel, the Father told Father Abraham that in him all the nations of the earth will be blessed, right? And they will be inserted. So the only way that that can happen is if there is light and there is restoration, not only to Israel, but to humanity. And Yeshua is trying to teach us that by leading by example. And the only way that he can lead us by example is saying, I am holy because my Father is holy. So when he says, I don't do anything, or I do nothing of myself unless it's something he sees the Father, is the same thing, right? What the Father said that the priests are called to do, they're called to be holy because I sanctify them and I am holy. Yeshua is saying, I am healing, I am restoring, not for the sake of my name or for the sake of my glorification, but for the sake of my Father, who I see, who restores and heals. It says, for the Father loved the Son and shows him all things that he himself is doing. And the Father will show him greater works than these, so that you will marvel. For just as the Father raises the dead and gives them life, even so the Son also gives life to whom he wishes. For not even the Father judges anyone, but he has given all judgment to the Son, so that all honor the Son even as they honor the Father. He who does not honor the Son does not honor the Father who sent him. Truly, truly, I say to you, he who hears my word and believes him who sent me has eternal life, and does not come into judgment, but has passed out of death into life. And so here for Torah portion Emor, right? And I chose this part because it highlights Yeshua presenting his authority not in an imposing manner or a encroaching, you can say, manner. He's manifesting what prophetically is expected, but he's doing it in a humble way, right? He's saying that which we are all called to do, right? Because we are all made in the image of God, right? That's what Genesis says. And Israel is also called his chosen people, right? The children of Israel are his, that he has adopted, that he has consecrated, right? So Yeshua is saying that he is the son and that Adonai is his father, more than a literal language, is talking about a covenant, right? Meaning that there is a relationship between Yeshua and the Father, a loyalty, an obedience, a love. And because Yeshua is obedient, loyal, and respects his Father in heaven, then the healings are permissible, because Yeshua is serving those that are in need and restoring those that need restoration, providing for those that need to be provided for, and lifting up those that need to be lifted. He's not working for the self-preservation or self-gain. He's working so that the name of his Father is glorified. And in Torah portion Emor, God says that the priest, if they maintain themselves pure and holy, as he is called to be pure and holy, and how Adonai is pure and holy, then when the people bring gifts and they are ready to accept those gifts that are holy and pure, they can glorify God. And if they're seeking restoration, they could be restored. The testimony of the priest and the standard of the priest, even though the service, it cannot be fulfilled by us because we're not Levitical priesthoods or priests or descendants of Aaron, at least not all of us. Yeshua says that shouldn't limit us from being pure and holy, because just like he is holy, we're called to be holy. And if we are holy and pure, we can be that extension, just like our Messiah was for us. No, we're not going to be Yeshua. No, we're not going to be Aaron. No, we're not going to be Moses, because they did their part. But we can be ourselves, pure and holy for our deity, in obedience to his words. Yeshua says here that if we truly say that we believe and hear his words, we will receive eternal life. So the key there is believe, listen, and apply. Because like he told the paralytic, he said, when he saw him again, he said, go and sin no more. So that's all I got for this week. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Shavua Tov and Shabbat Shalom.